Welcome back to building balanced setups for Blood on the Clocktower. This is Bad Moon Rising, and we just finished looking at a 10-player setup for the game where you get your second minion into the game. This time we're going to be looking at 7. So 7 is interesting and different to me. This is a setup that we had for 10. I'm just going to clear this quickly. 7 is interesting and different. As I mentioned in the previous 2 videos of this series, that Bad Moon Rising, every character fits into one of 2 categories. It either slows down the game or it speeds up the game. If you have too many characters that slow down the game feels like a long grind. You're not really getting any progress moving forwards, and it feels a bit slow and can be a problem. And you can always just have a really fast game. Like, that's super easy to do. And it depends on how much time you have. What's your time constraint? My goal is to run a game that goes for an hour. Like, I want it to wrap up between the 50-minute and the 1-hour mark. Because after that, it can just feel like it's grinding along and there's no real progress happening, especially if there's multiple nights of no deaths from a demon. But let's look at a 7-player setup, because there's less players compared to a 10-player game. You can run more characters that slow down the game and give you a chance for information and that kind of stuff to happen. So this in mind, we are going to play Mastermind Puka. Mastermind gives us a whole extra day, and the Puka is not a multiple kill demon, which can give us some control over what's happening there. So we're going to run Pacifist. I'm thinking Chambermaid. I really like the Chambermaid in every setup for Bad Moon Rising. I think this is a really underplayed character, considering it's the best info character on the script. Gambler, which speeds up the game if they guess wrong, and then we need some stuff to slow down the game, which is going to be 2 characters. I think Courtier, maybe, or Exorcist. Actually, I think Exorcist better here. I think Exorcist better here. Do I want Minstrel? I think I want Innkeeper. So there's going to be actually a lot of poison coming from the Innkeeper, coming from the Puka, which can be adding a large element of confusion. And we're also hoping that the Mastermind is not going to be poisoned by the Innkeeper, like, ever. I feel like you just can't make that choice. Unless it was, like, really early in the game, like day 1. But I think this is fine. The good team's got info in the Chambermaid. It's got info in the Gambler. The Exorcist can slowly narrow down who they think the demon is each night. And the Innkeeper can try and protect at a cost, perhaps. The thing I am hinging on here is the Innkeeper correct, or is maybe the Sailor better? Or is maybe the Sailor better? Let's pick the Sailor. I think the Sailor might be better in these circumstances. So let's hand it out. So we've got the Puka seated next to the Mastermind. We've got the Exorcist, the Gambler, who I don't think the Exorcist would claim a real character to. The Sailor probably would. So the Gambler could probably go Sailor on the first go. Pacifist, which can pseudo-act like a tea lady. I probably wouldn't activate this more than once. I would be highly likely to activate it if the Exorcist was being executed on the first day. And then Chambermaid. So Chambermaid gets some good info. Can suss out that the Mastermind is a does not wake character. If the Mastermind is bluffing as a wakes character, and the Chambermaid hits them and sees they did not wake, could help unravel the fact that it is a Mastermind game. So I think this is definitely solvable for the good team. How the Puka gives out that misinformation is going to be interesting. One thing I could have done is put in a grandmother. One thing I said in the previous video, which I thought would be really funny, if the Puka selects the grandmother on the first night, the grandmother gets the wrong info. But the grandmother doesn't specify townsfolk. The grandmother, actually I'll be able to show you in the bluffs here. The grandmother, you start knowing a good player, but you're poisoned, so you could be shown an evil player, but you're shown a character. So the poisoned grandmother could see the Pooka as a lunatic. The grandmother goes up to the Pooka and goes, I'm the grandmother, you're my grandchild, you are the lunatic. And the Pooka goes, oh my god, is this a Godfather game? Am I the +1 lunatic? And suddenly the evil team is in trouble. And I really want to try and set that up one game and try and make that happen, which would be kind of funny. The grandmother obviously dies on the first night, which might confirm that the Pooka selected them successfully. So we'll see. I think that could be really funny. But while we have this menu open, we had a request in the comments to talk about bluffs for these games, because it can be a difficult thing to try and pick out. So one of the advantages that you get, and I think this is much more obvious in Bad Moon Rising and Trouble Brewing, is you get to see where people are sitting before you give out the bluffs. So in Trouble Brewing, you might see a pair of evil players and give a chef bluff, because that means they have control over the narrative of how many pairs of evil players there are. Same goes for Empath with seats. Same goes here for the Tea Lady. Because the Pooka claiming Tea Lady can potentially have the pacifist protect the chambermaid from an execution and confirm the Tea Lady. Soft confirm, because there's a pacifist claim. In this setup, because there's two evil players sitting next to each other, that makes me think it's really unlikely. And I think the Pooka would get found out if they had any disbelief of the Tea Lady. So I think that's not a good choice. I kind of like the Minstrel here. If the chambermaid clues onto the fact that the mastermind does not wake, the Minstrel could be a way to maybe cover, maybe help. I think the downside is that if the chambermaid selects the Pooka and learns that they did in fact wake, then the Minstrel bluff falls apart. I know it is always going to be a coin flip, but if your other neighbor is the pacifist and you really trust they're the pacifist and they're never going to wake, then you just go, okay, I'll pick everyone else. I'm just going to learn a 1 or a 0. So maybe we need to pick characters that are always going to wake. So it could be Professor and just claim to miss. Could be Innkeeper. Innkeeper bluff for the Pooka is pretty good because the Pooka knows who they're not going to be targeting and can be giving people poison. Maybe the Gossip. You would have to be the Gossip that just never activates. And I think that's bad. You have like no way of confirming yourself. Or the Fool. Maybe the Fool. This is a tough one for the Pooka. I mean, the Fool doesn't wake. So maybe the Fool's not the best choice. Maybe the Courtier is a better choice. Pooka as a Courtier selecting a minion, like the Mastermind, could be good. Maybe. I'm not sure. The Courtier is a really hard bluff to play as, because if you get found out that that character is confirmed activating, you're just dead and kind of lose. We had a game where we had a demon claiming Courtier that had selected Shabaloth in a very obviously Shabaloth game, and the Shabaloth kept killing, and they were like, look, I don't know what to tell you. My ability did not work. So it's tough. I think this is probably fine. I think this is definitely a tough setup to pick out good bluffs for. And with the Professor, you just have to be like, I missed, or I was poisoned, or whatever. Then the Innkeeper, I think, is probably the best one. I think the Innkeeper is a great bluff for the Pooka. And I think the Courtier is tough to play, but I think is the correct choice. So this is the setup. I think this might be good team focused. I think the evil team really only wins if either they don't find out it's a Puka and they think it's maybe a Poe, or like this is the Puka who is the innkeeper is doing a really good job of protecting things, or there's just like ways of not deaths, like because the Puka can just kill the Sailor just fine, right? And whether or not the Exorcist gets a hit, if the Exorcist gets a hit, the Puka can always say, oh, I'm the innkeeper that got a hit, and they try and make the thing it's a Poe game. The Puka gets executed, and then maybe the Mastermind activates. I think this is kind of balanced, if not slightly favoring the good team. But I think that's fine. Knowing if it slightly favors the good team, you can just not activate the pacifist. Like, you can just not protect any good players with the pacifist ability. And that is fine. Like, the pacifist should only jump in if you really think the good team needs help. And you as a storyteller have power to make that choice. So you gotta be reading the pulse of the game, seeing what's going on. Do you think these people are gonna figure this out? No? Okay. Let's do it. That's fine. Let's go. Let's see how it is. But that, I think, is a setup. BMI is tough to play at 7. Especially because there's just so many characters that just end the game way too quickly. Or you can have all protectors and the game doesn't go anywhere at all. It's really hard to balance because you don't have enough options of plays in the game. And it can be tough. And I think this one is an okay one. And I think I've picked okay bluffs. There could be arguments for me to change in-play characters out for some of these and vice versa. But I'm curious, what do you think? Do you think this is balanced? Is this a 7-player setup that you would play? Is me going through the bluffs helpful for you? I know this was a request out of the comments, and it's something I'm going to try and start doing more regularly to help, because I know that can be something difficult to pick for new players. And that's it. Hopefully this helps you think a little bit about what to put in your Bad Moon Rising games. And if you did enjoy it, please click the buttons. Hit that like button. Hit that rainbow subscribe button. That really cool flickery. Anyway, click them buttons, and then hopefully you'll see me in the next one. We've got a whole playlisting up here that you can check out. It has a whole bunch of Blood on the Clocktower content just like this one. And if you watch this far into the video, you might as well go and check out the next one. You might as well put the playlist on and just check out some of the gameplay. Check out some of the storyteller tip stuff that I've got on there to help you get a bit more comfortable storytelling, hopefully your first game soon. All right, see you in the next one.